And we're live. Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 342. Some AMD. Actually, let me bring the microphone closer. There we go. AMD and Ryzen mini PC testing. We're going to play with that a little bit. And then we'll talk about some feedback. Actually, let's start with the feedback, and then I'll jump right into that Ryzen testing stuff. And I've seen someone ask if we're going to do any Synology talk. Hey, why not? Excuse me. Why not? I like Synology as well. I'm going to go ahead and throw something else on the screen, though. Banners. As always, you can email vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com. That's been the easy way for people who say, hey, I'd like to ask you a question, and I don't feel like joining your forums, because the forums is a better way to engage with me. But hey, I'll accept emails to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com. Don't expect a reply. I'll accept her on Vlog Thursdays. Occasionally, I have replied to people. I do have that set up as an actual email address that I can reply as, but not always. Nonetheless, here, what do we got? Let's run through the questions because they're pretty simple. In one of them was because I reviewed the Zima board. Someone said, how would I cool the hard drives for TrueNAS? Well, the same way you power the drives, if you use it for a TrueNAS, is probably the same way you're going to cool it. In terms of if you're using enough drives, more than two that the Zima board can plug into, you're going to have to get a fan for it. So there's not any like easy, simple use these pins. There's only so much power coming out of it. You'll probably have to find some external way to power the fan on that Zima board. Now, the Zima itself doesn't get hot. It really does, but it dissipates the heat well enough that I didn't have any issues with it. But as far as cooling drives, I was using SSDs, so it didn't really matter for my testing. This is an interesting question, but same person. And I thought this was a fun one. It says, over the years, I guess the end users have changed. Maybe. And the younger generation, do they ask different questions? And the answer is kind of, but not really. The same problems persist. And I always just assumed, and this is a wrong assumption I had, that with young users growing up in a more tech focused world, they would just have better tech experience. Now, granted, they're better at opening PDFs than the previous generation, but the reality is it's like any other tool. Just because a car's been around for a long time doesn't mean people know how the car works. They know how to get to work with the car, but they may not know how the details of that car works. Therefore, the questions are still usually more technical. I think they have a better understanding of it, but I wouldn't say that the tech support has just gone away because of their tech savviness. And most of the problems they face are all the other stupid problems that come with computers and the ever increasing complexity of computers. They in some ways have become easier, but they've also become pretty complex. Next question was, since you're focusing on social media side of things rather than running the business itself, are you planning to full on create a video tutorial for pfSense, Synology, TrueNAS, and others from beginner to advanced? I'm still going to do, I don't know how beginner, because that is a weird debate in my head. And of course, in the audience's head of what does beginner mean? I tend to stay on the more advanced and less the 101 side. So I don't plan to go any more basic. I do plan to create those longer form tutorials, which are ones I've done before, like the pfSense video and things like that. I've done one previously. I'll be doing a new version of it because there's enough changes to make it worthy of a new version, but I'm not going to cover the one-on-ones. And I've had people complain where they're going, well, I want some extremely basic. I'm like, well, I don't tell you how to turn the computer on. I will tell you how to load pfSense on it. So there's always figuring out, how basic do you start? And I'm usually the person I think people find after they've gone through some iterations of getting things set up. Now, onto the mini PCs. Let's talk about those because they're pretty novel. Now, specifically the one I'm going to be using here, let me start sharing it. I want to make sure this is all at the beginning because I babble in the later and people always complain. You had a topic in there, Tom, and I want the topic covered first. So we're going to cover the topic first. Actually, where did I put? I guess I'll just drag this over here too. I thought I must have closed that window. No big deal. I have some review notes, and specifically it's the specs of the machine because people will want to know. And I got an Amazon link. Okay, let's get that up here too. So we'll drop an Amazon link so we're all talking about the same thing. And that's going to be one of these little Ryzen systems. I'm only going to talk about one of them today. Maybe I'll do a review on the other one coming soon. And we'll share this tab. There we go. So the first one's going to be this AM60 Pro. Let's go ahead and pull this up. You can have a link to it if you'd like. And let's start with the link of what it is. And uh, I'll drop this in for people who don't want to do the search. I'll drop this in the chat. There we go. This so these go under a few different names. They're called Ace Musician, they're Ace Magician, and Kamrui. Your guess is as good as mine. Kumrui, I think that's how you pronounce that. But I've been testing this little Ryzen 5 system, and I've been running XCP-ng on it. We've got a few tests we ran here with it using the higher end we've seen on it is I think using like 32 or 40 watts. I still gotta work that out. I will do a review where I cover the wattage, but it idles down all the way at like 9 watts, which is kind of neat. But they're definitely nice little boxes here to do some testing on, or matter of fact, people are probably looking at like, hey, can I use this for my home lab? And yeah, I would say this makes a nice little lab system. And more specifically, the question comes around to like, hey, does it run XCP-ng? Matter of fact, runs it quite well. I was actually impressed with just how well this ran. And it's got only 2.5 gigs. So this is not a box that's going to be screaming fast in terms of being able to deliver that speed, but maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe you just want to run a few virtual machines on there. And by the way, this is something you may find interesting. If you look at the virtual machines that are running on here, you'll find, and we go over here to the VMs, that all of them are off, but I'm using Zen Orchestra. I wanted to bring this up, and maybe I'll do this as a video topic as well, but you can do this with, and we're going to log in here. This is, to me, just a simple use for lab environment. Share this tab instead. Let's go to applications. I have Zen Orchestra running inside my TrueNAS because you don't have to. This is one of the things about the way XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra work together. You can run Zen Orchestra in something like your NAS or another box, and then I can orchestrate all the other testing, and then I can just delete all the VMs, move them around that are over within Zen Orchestra or in XCP-ng and manage it externally. So saves you having to use any of that memory because I've Dockerized it over here via True Charts. And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, it seems to work quite well inside of TrueNAS. And this is not a very fast particular TrueNAS system, but hey, this is another way you can help run and manage these. But back over to the device, share this tab. I got actually, let me get rid of one of them I have on here. So I don't need, I was testing it. I compiled Zen Orchestra on here. I'm going to delete it because I don't really need it anymore. But it boots up and runs just really fast. Like everything's very, very snappy on it. I've had no compatibility issues. We had it running for a couple weeks at the office, just doing load testing, Pharonics testing, and at no point did it ever have a problem. Now, I do want to take it apart because it has a fan in it. I just want to make sure I get some photos of the fan when I finish my final review. But my overall feelings of this little device, if you're just going, hey, Tom, is it worth the buy? I don't think it's a bad price to get, 16 gigs of DDR4, 512 M2. I believe there's a spot you can plug a SATA drive into it as well, and $279. Just not that bad of a price on there. So that's my quick short review. We'll poke at it here if people ask questions. How's the clavicle? Broken. You already start fairly basic and don't get much more further than intermediate. If you say so. All depends on who you ask. Do you have any guides or scripts on how you would audit someone's Windows environment, say AD and audit policies from a new client coming to launch systems? I don't cover that. Yes, we do. We have all kinds of stuff we do as part of the audit, but maybe I'll bring on some people to talk about that. I don't do the AD audit, so I'm not the person to talk about that. Hi, Tom. Are the vlogs going compared to the reviews? And how are the vlogs going compared to the reviews? Hold on. In the past, I find myself not watching your videos as much as I used to since you started vlogging. Maybe it's me personally. I don't know. The vlogs get the least amount of engagement. The fun thing about vlogs is they lose subscribers. Some people don't. They subscribe to my channel for a tutorial and they're like, oh, he's babbling about something and I don't feel like interacting. So the vlogs don't gain me any subscribers, rarely do, and usually lose me 1 subscriber per vlog. But I gain enough on all the other videos that I haven't decided to stop doing them. Hopefully it makes sense. My problems with mini PCs is they are almost never have PCIe slots. Yeah, I wish they did. I don't care about ECC memory, not for home lab stuff. I mean, this is home lab. I don't even ECC memory, kind of a waste in a home lab unless you just want it for reasons. Off topic, is inter VLAN through pfSense a big bottleneck compared to a layer 3 switch client connected to your switch? That's a very it depends question. How fast is the switch and how fast is the pfSense? The pfSense can do inter VLAN routing pretty fast if it's a fast pfSense box, and a switch can do inter VLAN routing pretty fast if it's a fast switch that can do that. So it comes down to which one's faster, the switch you're using or the pfSense. For example, you can do inter VLAN routing on that. It's a 10 gig, $100, roughly $110. I've reviewed it before. It's one of the only MikroTiks I've reviewed that will do 10 gig, that will do inter VLAN 10 gig. Well, no, I should say you can plug two 10 gig ports into it. You can inter VLAN route between them, but you won't get full 10 gig speed. So it kind of depends on the device and how fast that device is for both the pfSense and for the switch. I'm going to try this on a minis forum and test restores to it. Oh, okay, cool. I would love a video or more information on that. Yeah, I'll see if I can do it. I don't know, like, the people asking are the few, and I don't know how much demand there is for that content. So maybe we'll produce some content on it, but the demand seems low has been my perspective. So if the effort's high, because I gotta find someone in my company that can do it and explain it well, and then I have to edit and make that video, so there's a lot of effort that goes into the video because it's just not me doing it, because I really like I don't like doing Microsoft stuff. I've always just been aggravated by it. I know you like whiskey. What do you think about beer? Beer is good too. Is the X670 Hero compatible with the Ryzen 9? I have no idea. That is not something I'm the best person to ask on. Love listening to the vlogs on road trips. Cool. Would love a lot more guest videos where you bring on some members of your team to talk through the subject of if they're teaching you about the process. Yeah, it sounds good. Some of those videos have not gone as well. It it's a it's something that I don't know how to say other than some people don't do well in front of the camera. That's not they may be incredibly talented at their job. They're not as articulate in the camera, so those can be a little bit harder to do. But I'm working on it. We are working on a VMware video, so that may happen. I'll see if Jason's got time to do some of the other stuff. If he does, Jason's very good in front of the camera, so he's the president of CNWR, and he knows how to do a lot more Windows things than me. What's the best caching drive for one? I don't really know which one would be better than the other. Any of the Western Digital ones are going to be popular for it. I don't really review them specifically. I usually use whatever I have laying around. Matter of fact, the Synology we have that has I haven't logged into it in a while. Let's log into one of my other Synologies. Um, it has a cache drive in there. Let's look up what's in there because I don't remember what we put in there. It's been in there for over a year. So there's that. I don't know if that means it's good or bad, but it's good because it's working. We just got to log in now. Ooh, it's got updates. But before we go there, let's go to the drives and figure out what's in it. Actually, you got to go to the storage manager. Does it tell us which M2s are in there? Firmware, serial number. There's actually Synology branded ones that are in there right now. So I have some unknown drives here, and I've actually got Synology ones, Synology SSDs that are in there right now. So those, I didn't share the screen. I got the Synology ones in there right now. Can I make this bigger? So those are the cache drives I have in here are the actual M2 Synology ones. They've been working fine. This has been kicking around my office for a while doing stuff. This particular Synology does have a 10 gig NIC. Not all of my others, not all of my Synologies have. Some do, some don't. I don't mind vlogs or tutorials. If I don't want to listen to a vlog, I just skip it. Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way. Any idea why there's so many mini PCs but so few NAS options? Back to our backplanes that hard, kind of. That's it's demand. There's not enough demand to really push it. I'm trying to remember who did the there's one of them, one board. I'm trying to remember it was Top 10 made a board that had a whole lot of SATA ports. That was a pretty good NAS board, but there's not a plentiful supply of those. So it's just kind of challenging finding the perfect NAS build because it comes back down to demand. I kind of maybe if they knew there was enough demand for it, I think they'd probably sell pretty good if a company could come up with something with a, just give me a whole lot of SATA ports, and that would kind of solve it. Happy almost Friday. Thank you, William Dowdery, and thank you very much for the donation. What is the best use case for dual LAN ports? Usually wanting to be in more than one network. That is a very common use case. The next use case is going to be bonding them together to get a higher aggregate throughput for having multiple interfaces. Would the forums be better at that? And can be just in general. I feel like my process is awful. Forums are generally probably where you're going to find more on Active Directory auditing stuff. P2B. I first time I've seen a question about P2P bridges in UniFi. So I don't know what your question is. Peer-to-peer bridges in UniFi, you can. There is a model that supports bridging. So there's that. What brand do you like best for mini PCs? B-Link, etc. I don't have any particular brand I like. I've got some of these other ones, like I said, these, and this is where it even gets more confusing. So this one's called the Cam Rui. Cam Rui sounds like how we're going to say that now. But let's go ahead and do a quick search. And when it comes to a lot of these, and we'll pull this tab up over here now. Hey, look, this one's called Ace Magic, and it's the same specs and it's the same box. And this is the challenge. It doesn't. Oh man, whoops, hold on. I keep forgetting to share the screen. Add to stream. Look at this box. And look at this box. They look suspiciously the same with the same specs and the same parts. They're just a different name. That's the problem with these is they go by, there's only a couple manufacturers essentially in China, and they just all send them out under different names and vary the specs maybe, or like what SSD they put in it, but the base box is the same. So I don't have any particular favorite. They're all made by just a couple different manufacturers, and I think they work well enough. I mean, they make for some fun lab projects, and that's about it. Like, I don't have a particular, like, I like this brand other than other ones. Now, specifically one I will call out that does things a little bit different. Protect LI. I screw their name up all the time because it's Protectly, I think is how that's said. Protectly, your number one appliance. Now, all these are, once again, I think it's Quotom makes these. Is you can find these on Alibaba. They have basically, they're an importer, if I understand correctly, and I may not. But as far as I can tell, they're like an importer that offers some level of US support rather than getting them cheaper from Alibaba. So these are maybe a little bit nicer, but I've talked about having some of these die. That happened, but any of them can die. That's just something that goes on with these things. There's no easy way. Like, I can load them up and do some stress tests to see if they can survive it, and all the ones I've tested so far have. It's what do they look like after several years is always the big question. There's no easy answer. Now, this is why we don't use these really in a commercial setting with clients, because clients, it's just the downtime is very expensive. It's not only our reputation for selling something that broke, it's the downtime and cost that may be incurred. So generally with businesses, you're going to see that we're going to buy a genuine Super Micro, a Lenovo, a Dell, something that's going to be like more dedicated towards that. You're just going to get, I think, a better overall reliability with things like that. I've got a WD Red, 1 terabyte, and by 2 of my QNAP, mostly because they had the highest endurance rating for the price. Backblaze is still my favorite place to go to find out a lot about hard drives. I love their. I haven't done a video about it in a long time. Maybe I should, because I think people forget about it. The Backblaze drive stats. Oh, I'll drop these a link right now. Like they give you so much detail on um, what do you call it? The drives, the endurance, how long and how many hours they were running. It's just really, really great. Problem for me is L3 and UniFi. Layer 3 and UniFi has a lot less options. So considering L2 to adjust traffic send up and down to PFSense. Mini CC. Yeah, I don't recommend layer 3 inside of PFSense. Have you had any Synology spinning drives? Are they good? Does Synology have flash storage for enterprise? Yeah, all the Synology stuff has proven to be very reliable. Anything we've had that has been Synology has been really good. Like it hasn't caused us any problems. I do have a bunch of crucial SSDs in there as well. What's my opinion on traffic? I don't use it, so I don't have an opinion on it. I don't know any reason not to use it. I just don't use it. Mini PC depends on what you use. I've got 2 for AliExpress. PFSense, Dell Optiplex, and i3 for browsing, not editing. Yeah, one of the things is it's a good way to learn redundancy, and it's a good reminder that all things that you care about should be backed up. If it's something you think you should care about, you should back it up. So if you wanted to buy a few of these mini PCs and put them into maybe a cluster network of like for example, my friend Radal, I think he did a cluster video on the I am looking because I have it sitting over here on my desk, one of those Zima boards. And it's a cool thing to build a cluster on. Now, I think the Zima board is reliable, but hey, it's a good way to learn and build out a redundancy in your network or in your OS build to do it. So it's kind of the big advantage is having these at a really reasonable price so you can get a few of them. Matter of fact, this Ace Magic one, the same one is a little bit cheaper, it looks like, on Amazon. And with Prime delivery, I can have another one by Saturday if I want it. So Backblaze do good data. They do for sure. Well, if you're putting links in, it's going to get shadow banned. That's why I have forums. PFSense or OpenSense? I prefer PFSense. I don't have any problem if people want to use OpenSense. Go ahead. It's not a bad system. It definitely has more updates than PFSense, which seems to get the home lab people excited, but it does not get the enterprise people excited because we have to manage all those constant flow of updates. And so we like a very stable, maybe seems boring to the home lab people, but PFSense is very stable, very well documented, and extremely reliable and secure. And that's the part that matters. Well, you are triggering words that YouTube doesn't like. If it's eating your posts, YouTube is just going, yep, you are putting words in that we do not like. This is nothing I have any control over. There's not, matter of fact, I wish I did. This has been a constant discussion between me and my other creator friends is why can't we have more control over what's in the chat? Why not? Like, if we could have an easier list or easier way to manage and ban words and things like that, it would be helpful, especially with all the spam that comes through, even on the comments. Like, that is just, we've got some ability, but it's not like we have nice global filtering tools. But hey, such is life. Morning, Lawrence, 6 a.m. in Western Australia here. So, hey, cool, from the land down under. Are you happy hosting UniFi controller in a VM or prefer bare metal? Oh, in a VM for sure. Would a VM be an issue for troubleshooting network outages? That depends on your skill level. I have not had any problems. We run 60 or 70 companies in ours, something like there's more now. With the merger, there's more. There's a whole lot of companies running in our VM. I don't have any networking issues with it. Matter of fact, it works really, really well. And being that it's a virtual machine, and we have several servers, we could just migrate the machine to other servers. So if we got to do maintenance on one of our servers, we can migrate the VM around and we don't have to worry about downtime as we do maintenance. And of course, being a VM means anytime there's an update, it's easy for me to snapshot it, update it. And if I do something dumb or if I end up accidentally goofing up something, I can just quickly roll it back, which really hasn't been much of an issue. But hey, I like that confidence that if I make a mistake, I have a snapshot. And that's usually what I do is I grab a snapshot of it to just before I do any of the updates. I don't want to switch hardware, but it'll sure change flow. Okay, so I see what you're talking about of the challenge of the layer 3 issues. Does AirFiber integrate into UniFi? I don't think the AirFiber one does. So there's a model that does. We just don't use it because it costs more. And the only thing it does is display in the UniFi interface. And I can't remember which model it is. I seen Cody from Mac Telecom Networks is here. He'll probably know the model off the top of my head. But or off the top of his head. There is a model that does integrate in UniFi, but I don't get it. Like you don't get cool extra features. It just displays in the UniFi list. Why would you pay more money for that? I'm trying to ditch Datto for backup. Thoughts on Acronis, Axion, MSP360. I love Synology, but your frequent issues with ABB needing to be re-authenticated. We use Veeam and MSP360. That's what we settled on. Acronis, I didn't like their interface, but Veeam and MSP360 is currently our stack. My go-to reverse proxy is HA proxy. I'm always cautious having Vail Windows license on these low-cost boxes. Yeah, I never run Windows on them. I put Linux on them right away, but I think it's weird when they say they can. I think that's actually what it says. It can run Windows. Is that on the license here? You're right, though. A lot of these say Windows, and yeah, I agree with you. It's probably kind of sketchy, but not a problem. Like it works. Also running Linux Nobra on the Dell. My first real use of Linux as daily driver for $70 savings a week electricity compared to my AMD. Worth it as a home user. Yeah. Are port 8080 and 843 open or is a VPN to the UniFi controller? So the way we self-host it is we leave the stun port. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. Is it 5743? I think stun. Anyways, stun. It's on their website. Stun and 8080. We have 8443 behind a VPN. So 8080 is open and the stun port, whatever port that is, and 8080. So Proxmox or VMware or Hyper-V? None. I use XCP-NG. My go-to is been for a long time, XCP-NG. That's what I got running right here. It works wonderful. It's my favorite hypervisor based on the Zen server, fully open source. So definitely a nice system. Building to bridge. What do you recommend? Whatever the newest, I don't know the newest models on their sites for the bridging. We sold enough bridges, but we don't sell a ton of them. We've definitely done a few. We've got a handful that we've deployed. I need to do some videos on them. I actually have footage and everything for the install. I just never got around to making a video on it. As far as I know, Arista has done a good job with Untangle, so I don't see any reason not to use it. UDP obfuscation science. I don't know what that means. I have a pfSense mini PC with 4 2.5 gig connected to UniFi with 8x 2.5 all client connected to UniFi, PC, server, IoT, some VLAN separation. Cool. Sounds like a fun setup. Yeah, the description says it comes with Windows. Yeah. What is Veeam pricing like for a full featured home lab, multiple dabs, backup, several data sets, CFS, desktops, and laptops, phones? I have no idea. I don't know the pricing on that. That's not my department. And I think your pricing probably varies with the volume you're buying. So I think does Veeam have pricing on their website? Um, they have a whole pricing calculator, it looks like. So, but like I said, pricing's not my department, so not something I know as much about on that. Let's see, XCPNG. I have a mini PC to run Proxmox server hosting only pfSense, being able to do snapshots as you mentioned. Tips for how to configure Proxmox server's network. I don't use Proxmox, so I don't know. I don't really have many tips. Jay from Learn Linux TV has a whole series on Proxmox. I believe Techno Tim has some videos on Proxmox. I have no videos on Proxmox because I don't use it. Were you going to share your UniFi VM management setup? Do you deploy a VM per customer and then VPN to their UniFi? No. No, we have one controller. We keep them all. If we do not want to maintain a VM for every individual client. You can have the system is multi-tenant, so you can have your instances where each client's in their own instance. So you have one controller, but all the different clients are in a pull down list. So I can go in there and I think I can pull some of this up. Yeah, I can't show you all my customers, but so if we share this tab, I have my house in here too, or my studio, I should say. So this one's my studio, and I can hit this button over here and switch this same account to another one. So let's say if we take this out, let me switch it to our lab, or I'll switch it to the office. Actually, I can share it now. See how it says LTS lab, LTS test site, LTS Jeremy's lab, or LTS office. There's actually way more. I filtered down just to those ones right there, the LTS ones. So because the controller is multi-tenant, I don't have to have a controller for each individual client that we manage. I keep hearing about your setup, but I've yet to have a chance to stop and think about it. I'm mainly concerned, confused about what configured network at Proxmox personalization, so it won't be plugged into another router. I imagine you have to set everything static on it. Do you only use VPN to connect to site or data center? We use that sometimes. How do you run Docker on XCPG? Just a Linux with VM with Docker? Correct. There is no, there's not really right now any native Docker support built into XCPNG. So in matter of fact, I have a Portainer instance. So if we pull this up, so for example, I have an Ubuntu 22 running Docker Portainer. And so I have a bunch of Portainer, Docker stuff running in here. This is more lab things that I have going, but it's a Portainer instance. Oh, you thought Veeam and VMware were the same company. They are not. What do you recommend while onboarding new clients so they scan their network and get all the things inventoried? Run Zero has been one of my favorite tools. That it just works really well for doing that. There's actually more tools that I will be talking about soon that we have, but primarily it's going to be there's a difference, when like Run Zero is great because I can just throw it on a network, grab all their inventory, and it gives me a great list. But there's some other tools that we use at CNWR that go more in depth, but those are more for when we sell an assessment of someone's network, not just an onboarding. But like I said, Run Zero, and I'll pull it up real quick here, which by the way, I have videos on this. But Run Zero is definitely a really cool tool for scanning a network and finding all the things. Of the companies you support running Linux, which just showed you see it's most, I don't do Linux support for companies. Well, we do, but it's not the distros. It's usually going to be enterprise support. It's not like anyone's running distros on their desktop that we offer support for. What we are supporting is usually backend servers that they have. So we are doing Linux admin for a handful of clients where they have a bunch of Linux servers. Frequently, it's going to be Red Hat, CentOS, maybe some Debian. It's not about the distro. It's usually whatever was recommended for the application that runs on top of it. The driving factor isn't like, oh, I prefer this distro. That's definitely what's the driving factor in the home lab market. But the market for the businesses is usually they're running the distro that their line of business application has to run on. Any opinion on enterprise VPNs, AnyConnect, Global Connect, 40 client? I've done a video on Fortinet. I have a lot of opinions on Fortinet. The other ones are what they are. Do you think Vates will add Docker support and host? I doubt it. I don't think it's really on the roadmap. What do you prefer, RDP, VNC, LAN side of things? Neither. We use a tool called Screen Connect. I love Screen Connect. Part one, is there an alternative for OpenSense like tool where I can give me source destination kind of logs of the traffic behind the UniFi? Part two, I don't want to double NAT things with Pinhole, so I know that's going to be out. I mean, you're looking for some type of network monitoring tool. I use pfSense with NTOP. That gives me all the traffic, and that works really well. So I don't know what to do in OpenSense or UniFi. UniFi, I don't think has a way to track it, but you can do this. I do not, and I'm not going to anytime soon write a tutorial on this because it's just not something I see very often. But you can set up NTOP and build port mirrors on things so you can do that. So there's a way to do it with port mirroring. You just got to build a server that can ingest the port mirror and collect the data. Matter of fact, you can actually do this with Security Onion. But once again, it's a pretty extensive setup, but there is a way at that point you can monitor all the traffic. I've not used Rust Desk. I think it looks interesting. But I will admit, I don't know how good the security is on it. I mean, it looks cool, but I don't know how secure it is. Use at your own risk. If you had to guess what percentage, how much of equipment is standard professional variant, mainly regarding switches? I don't understand that question. When is Tom's next not tech event vacation? Saw Cody in Jamaica. I don't know. I don't really think about. I don't know. I don't really not. I'm not sure. I mean, I have some tech events I'm going to. I just make my vacation, or matter of fact, I'm going to be in Dallas for Vid Summit, and I make my vacation around there because I'm already going to be there. So I'm going to Vid Summit in Dallas, and then I will be there for a few extra days because I'm already in Dallas. And yeah. Screen Connect is definitely amazing. It's a commercial product, but man, hands down, Screen Connect is solid. So NTOP does exist in OpenSense. Okay, I did not know. I worked for a Fortinet reseller and wound up running a company data center. We use them, just not a fan. Support is severely lacking. Yes. Performance of Rust is fantastic. It beats real VNC and no machine. Yeah, VNC is dated, and I've never found VNC to be performant. Screen Connect is still like what I would compare things to. It's kind of like the gold standard of things, but yeah, the VNC has never been my favorite. Basically, is a reason to use a pro version of the UB switches rather than the standard ones in a home lab. If you look at the features, does it fit your requirement? That's the part that I hammer to people constantly. First, list out your needs and then go find the product. Instead of going, does this product fit my needs? So I need the pro one. Well, do you need the features of the pro one? The pro one has more wattage. Are you going to use more wattage? That's how we decide it. We will look at a project like we have a bunch of cameras we're putting in. Okay, how many watts will all those cameras? What's the likelihood the company will want to add more cameras later? Oh, we better spec it for, if they only want 4 cameras, I don't necessarily need to sell them a 48 port switch. But if they have 4 cameras today and tell me they would like 20 more cameras sometime in the future, we will then suggest they buy a switch to accommodate the expanded plans for their future. These are things you have to figure out when you're selling any type of equipment. It's like, not, you don't plan for the storage server you need today. I ask you what your data run rate is. How much data you plan to accumulate, how much you plan to accumulate over time, what's your predicted growth rate. Let's talk about that, so I can sell you a server that doesn't just fit you today, but will fit you to whenever your budget allows for the next server. That's the, I mean, ideally just buy all the storage, but the budget doesn't always lend itself to that. I bring it up because we have a client that through, I believe through some compression, they're able to stretch how long they've had their server to a lot longer. And now that they've filled up or getting closer to filling up their petabyte of storage, they need 2 more petabytes of storage because they understand their run rate better and the compression around it. So yes. Look at the number of SFP plus ports and say, do you need those? Yeah, look, there's wattage differences, there's number of port differences. Do you need those ports? I mean, I want the ports, so I will buy something with all the ports, but there comes a point where your budget may not fit a device that has all the ports. I didn't mention it, but I did order a new chair. It's really comfortable. Now, I actually have freedom of my arms because I can support. That's why I'm able to move both hands now. I can actually support my arms better on this chair because I can move the arm up to hold it. I don't usually, I mean, I don't know if I need to do an updated office tour because there hasn't that much changed in my office, but this chair was expensive, but I was so hesitant to buy it, but boy, is it nice. It is I'll just mention it in case curious. This is not an easy choice figuring out what chair you should buy. This is it's called the Steelcase Gesture, and it's man, I like it a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's just it's made it's made things better because it has allowed me to get out of my sling a little bit more often, which I think is pretty cool. But that is the chair I bought. It is not a cheap chair. I'm not gonna lie. It's expensive, but boy, do I like it. That's my little side note on chairs. Hey, Tom, regards to PFSense upgrade 2.6 to 2.6 to 2.7, is it advisable to remove additional packages before the upgrade? I would say yes. There's no harm in doing it because the package settings are all saved. And I think it's a step in the right direction to avoiding problems. Always have a backup no matter what. But if you run into, especially because from 2.6 to 2.7, there's a big jump in not just the version of BSD, but also the version of PHP from 7 to 8 something. And the new version in PHP means if you have some of these applications and there's some dependencies on there, they may have a problem doing that. So I would definitely recommend removing it. And by the way, the default in pfSense, unless you change this, is when you remove a package, all the settings are still saved for that package. So when you reinstall the package, all the settings come back. So other than the tediousness of uninstalling and reinstalling packages, it's not too painful versus how hard is it to reload. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing well because I've with the new chair, I have movement of my both hands now. This was the biggest thing. So as long as I don't put weight on this hand or arm, so it doesn't pull down on my class, so I'm kind of leaning this way to make sure I'm always supporting it because I can take it out of the sling. It lets me type a whole lot better. Oh, no big deal. Things come up. It was really early in the morning for you, so I was. I'm fine if you want to reschedule. Not everybody's a morning person like I am. Your back has decided the choice. Yes. Yeah, my last chair, that lasted I had, Herman Miller Aeron, and I probably had that chair for 13 years before it just got goofed up. On my USG4 router, having SFP help because the copper port got a lightning surge. Well, that's not good. Do you think frequent scheduled bad block runs on EXT45 RAID are enough for my home use, or should I be converted to ZFS RAID? The array would be syncing up to additional EXT4. I really like ZFS, the way it handles it. I just feel way, way, way more confident with ZFS handling RAID. Now, Synology, because I've actually talked to engineers at Synology, they use ButterFS and combined with their own RAID system that does its own checking. I feel pretty confident in the RAID system Synology uses. I really, that's actually direct experience because we've got so many Synologies deployed and we haven't had a problem. Managing RAID yourself is a little bit harder. So it depends on how you set it up, but ZFS all the way is my preference for just absolute like rock solid reliability. Do you prefer SAS or SATA for backup storage in TrueNAS and enterprise environments? I mean, enterprise systems are all going to be SAS and much higher end for the enterprise. We're not really using consumer stuff in the enterprise market. When we have clients with mission critical stuff, we use mission critical hardware. It's a lot more expensive, but that's what it comes down to is that reliability you need. I got too much noise going on in the background. There we go. Oh, I figured you overslept or woke up and go, not today. So no worries, my friend. Oh, yes. Well, the Herman Miller Aeron chair is like a mesh one. So I washed it several times. It doesn't have fabric on it. It's a mesh that you can wash. ZFS or death. I don't know if I go that far, but I have been called a cult leader of ZFS, and I'm okay with that. Couple months ago, I upgraded pfSense Plus from CE, and since then, the package manager has been empty. Have you run into this before? Yes. If you go on their forums, you'll find that exact problem. I can't remember the commands you run, but there's something. It's like a broken package that you can run from the command line to clear the old packages and force it to update. I don't remember the command off the top of my head, but if you search that, you'll find in their forums. And I think there's a few Reddit posts with the same thing and an answer on there. What build of the UI network controller are you running? Whatever the latest is. So let's look. I keep my UniFi system up to date. So let's look here and share this tab. 74162. And I think that's the latest. So let's look at UniFi. Find their, oh man, software downloads. Where is their version? It's on here somewhere. I'm on their site. Oh, visit past releases. There we go. So 162, that appears to be the latest one from July 5th. All hail ZFS cow. Yes. It's a cult with integrity. Do you know any FOSS Cisco ISS central management? No, I do not. Right below on the front page. A lot of people are saying Exos makes a lot more noise than Ironwell Pro, but many also say they do not. Trust me. I never pay, like, for the big systems full of drives. I never pay attention to the noise. They're usually in server cabinets, and the fan noise in the server cabinet far exceeds whatever the hard drives are doing. I mean, maybe if you're chattering away at something, but for the most part, I'm not really noticing any of the drive noise. You got a picture of, do I have a picture of one of them? Show bigger which drives are in there. Bum, 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 bum. Somewhere there might be a picture of this. Or not. Man, we go through a lot of systems. Trying to remember how many drives. Oh, I have a picture of it, not the drives. I think this system here. These were, I think these were Exos drives. I see the green on the side. I'm pretty sure Exos. I mean, I could hear these being a little bit louder when I was setting it up without the lid on. But once I put the lid on, I didn't really, I don't know, didn't really see an issue. I tried to convince my uncle, who watches you, to take CFS box, replace my WD cloud boxes, hence my EXE 4 acres. Thanks for the answer. Awesome, cool. More for home NAS like Synology DSX Exos is often cheaper. Okay. I've used Proxmox for less than a year. Rocket for NVMe. Anyone had Windows VM that didn't move files around or anything, but the disk usage would degrade too fast? Not a problem I've run into. Yeah, there is this issue that he brought up here. Consumer grade drives degrade faster if you run them in a server with lots of small log writes, and always on conditions will degrade them faster. Yeah, the enterprise ones have more wear leveling options than you'll find in consumer, but I've been impressed with how well a lot of these drives do hold up over time. Even the consumer ones, the thought that they're going to die soon has finally kind of gone away, because it seems like a lot of people really like to harp on it, like they're just gonna die, they just won't last. And I've got tons of these consumer drives that we've set up that seem to just keep working despite us doing a lot of reads and writes on these. So let's update this. I seen there was an update, and while I'm logged in over here, well, I figured, hey, why not? People like to ask about Synologies. If you're doing something like ZFS and it's the ZIL drive, yeah, you probably want to run that in a mirror. If it's a read cache on ZFS, it doesn't really matter, because if you lose your read cache, it just pulls back from the main VDEVs. So it's much less of a big deal in that circumstance. What are the downsides of using a Synology RS243 with a Seagate the Seagate 22 terabyte drives, biggest supported drives? The problem is, and they usually update this, the way the manufacturers work is they'll list that they support at the time of release the biggest drive that's available then. So going from an 18 terabyte to a 22 terabyte, I mean, if the 22 terabyte were not made and they have not been tested, they may not work in Synology until there's an update. And because Synology has software updates, if there's an update that fixes it, then they'll update the compatibility list. So it may support it. There may be an update that supports it. But when a drive first comes out, the companies aren't in a hurry to hurry up and validate their hardware with it right away. Not, well, at least say it's validated. They start testing right away, and then they later will validate, oh, yeah, this works. Back to moving over here. Here we go. Oh, cool. It's all up to date. Is there any more updates? DSM is up to date. I think the only thing this is running, I don't know what it's running right now. This is one of our lab systems. Oh. It's got a bunch of backups of our people at the office. Mostly what we use this for. Travis, Brett, Miles. Now, some of these are old because they've disconnected them. Ooh, Kyle needs an update. Well, it's because they updated this, so now they need updates. I want to try some Mac OS backup on this. I'm getting curious about that because someone, I was going to post this. I know someone will say something about it. Let's see. But let me share this tab instead. So we had a MacBook Air at my office, and I went ahead and switched to it, and I kind of like it a lot more than I expected to. Now I don't care for Mac OS. I just like the device, and all I use it for is when I'm not at my main computer here, when I'm upstairs. It's like I just need something to reply to Slack messages, emails, read the news, send more emails, and SSH into things occasionally that fits the bill very, very well with the MacBook Air. And I'm not going to lie, it's an older M1, but man, does that, I can't find a good PC equivalent to the MacBook Air M1 in terms of battery life and screen quality. The screen is really better than I expected. The sound is good. I'm just like, I'm not big on the Mac OS, and the shortcuts, I'm getting there, but because the keyboard's different, I'm learning some of the different shortcuts for things, but it's not been too hard to do. It's not like they're not documented, and the OS seems to work well enough. So it's not been bad. It's been better than I expected. Can you make a video review of Portainer? Maybe at one point I will. I started to, and then I stopped. And there's other people who have some really good reviews of it. I'm trying to remember who does. Is it Techno Tim? The people who do have reviews have done such a good job. I didn't feel like I could offer any more insight than their video. If you're asking for a recommendation of whether or not to use Portainer, I give it a thumbs up, but I don't know that I can offer any more insight than some of the other videos I've seen on it. With consumer NAS like Synology and QNAP, they will be very conservative about the hardware they supported because it enables them to provide full support they can. It's rarely to do with it won't work. Yeah. Yeah, this is something I'm hoping we see in the PC world get caught up with, is something that matches the battery life. So I set the laptop up on Monday and I plugged it in today because the battery I'm only using it really in the evening to send my emails, but just sitting on my desk, I'm just like, yeah, open it up, send some emails. We'll set on my table upstairs, and I'm just sitting there in the kitchen typing away, and I'm just like, yeah, the battery's like only gone down 1% and another percent. The battery life on it is absolutely insane compared to some of the other devices I've used, and it still feels snappy. It doesn't feel sluggish, so I've been pretty impressed with it. I feel weird. So I've always dumped on Mac, and I'm definitely not an Apple fanboy, but I was like, yeah, I might have kind of switched to even Jay from Learn Linux TV. He's definitely someone who's in the Mac side. He likes the Mac a lot, and he kind of talked me into, you should probably give it a try, because we had one we weren't using at the office. I gave it a try, and I'm not going to lie, I liked it more than I expected. And I went in there not wanting to like it. Oh man, let's start closing tabs here. There's too many things open. Hey, look, there's my Portainer system. If you haven't looked at Portainer, if anyone's looking at something, just kind of play around with here. Let me log into it. I don't even know what I got in it right now. We don't run any nothing production is in it. Well, no, I'll kind of take that back. I guess I could consider my pull it up here. Uptime Kuma. I guess this is production. It monitors all my stuff. We got to expand so it monitors the CNWR stuff as well. But I love Uptime Kuma. It's just awesome. And it lets me know and sends me notices if any of these things go down. It runs on a Raspberry Pi, but it's managed on Portainer. Can Portainer automatically back up your Docker containers? No, that's not how you would use Portainer, because it's not about backing them up. For example, if you have something in here, As a matter of fact, I forgot I have Chasm running inside of here. Uh, if you set something up in here, you want to point your data where it belongs, and then you back it up. It's not about backing up the Docker images. They essentially shouldn't matter. You just grab a new Docker image and run. It's all about where you save in your volumes. So you set up your volume where you want to save things, and then from there you will, and right now these are apparently unused, you will make sure that your volumes, your data itself is backed up. So it's not the Docker images you care about backing up, it's the data storage that you set up that you attach those Docker images to. I have MacBook Air M1, and the one thing that puts me off are keyboard shortcuts in a Mac OS. They are so different than Windows or Linux. Yeah, that's the one thing I mean, I'm figuring it out from muscle memory, but my keys go in different places on those, and it's not end of the world, but it's definitely annoying. Are the extra features useful is the question. If you're going to do full XCPNG, I would say yes, because with the free version you don't get backups. I personally like to have all the backups in there, so I say yes, compile it for the home lab. It works really well. But if you were going, well, I don't care about backups, then that's probably the biggest difference is the backups on there. I have no idea about Docker. If you typed in how to get started with Docker in YouTube, there's definitely plenty of people who have videos on the basics of how to get started. I only have a couple of videos, not where I talk about Docker specifically, but I talk about using Docker for something along the lines of like a Graylog, for example. I have a Docker video on. Yep. In theory, if you reinstall a container and point the data at the container, it effectively restores to where it was. Yes. That is the beauty of Docker. And there's a ton of people have videos on it. Is the program is separated from your data when you set it up properly. And that means you can just blow away the program anytime you want and grab the new version and reattach it to the data, and you're up and running. And then you're only ever worried about your data. What's your electricity rate here in San Diego? We have stupid high, 0.3 C water. Running old, less efficient home lab is so expensive. Great. Michigan. I have no idea right now. I did know because I looked this up before. Looks like ours is 19 cents a kilowatt. So yeah, wow. If you're all the way there, yeah, you're at 36.80. Ours is only according to the quick lookup I did, and that sounds about right. It's somewhere around like 13 cents. Michigan has pretty cheap power. Good thing about switching from Proxmox to thinking about switching. I like the integrated backups you get. That's something I just mentioned where you have all these backup options. Let me switch over to my main one. So being able to do this, like let's say we wanted to take a snapshot right now. The last one was from 4 days ago for the backup, and it's set to be automated, but we can just force it to do it right now. Let's hit this, and it's going to go through and run the backup on this particular system. So that's nice. The way it handles jobs, the way it handles many users inside of here are all just things I like. The plugins are kind of cool. I don't use all of them. I'm just using like the load balance. I'm not even using load balance right now. It has really good netbox integration, performance statistics, software defined networking controller. That one's kind of neat. I've talked a little bit about that. I don't think I've ever done a full video on it. I've played with it in the lab. I never really have it deployed right now anywhere. I don't know. I just overall like the way XCPNG works, the way it handles storage. To me, it's just a very smooth system, but I don't have any problem with Proxmox. It's just not what I use. High electricity costs. Well, the reason I got rid of 10 years plus equipment, replaced with modern, more performant, and more power efficient hardware. Yeah, that's a huge issue. Will I be at LTX next year? Yes, I very much plan to be. Yeah, Proxmox has integrated basic backups. You can get really advanced with the backups. If we look at the, make sure I'm the right one. The backups are very granular, very detailed. You can have many deltas, fulls, mix and match. So if I can restore them, I can migrate these to anywhere I want. So here's all the snapshots of the backups I have for this particular VM. And if I wanted to restore it somewhere else, it's pretty easy. Matter of fact, I think I got a new one in here for Debian. Do I? Yes, I do. Cool. So here's my another Debian lab I just built. If we want to restore it, we can just say, yeah, let's go ahead and throw this version. Where do we want to throw it? These are completely different storage repositories. I can just grab one of them and say, hey, let's restore it to there, generate a new Mac on it. Like, to me, it's very smooth and how I can duplicate, replicate systems. And it just works. I can migrate them between all the hosts I have. So like right here's my Debian 12 lab. Let's go ahead and fire it up real quick. I don't know. I just really like the interface. Like, it's very fluid to me and how to use it. You're doing VMs instead of containers. Yes. Special rate from DTE at this time of day takes that 0.19 up by several percent. Yeah, there's some variations back and forth on it. They have like a split rate, but I'm in the Detroit DTE market, and if you Google that, they have a whole explainer of the different rates. Does it support ZFS? Yes, it does. So now this is booted up, and let's see if we want to make some changes real quick to it. So actually, date. Nope, no upgrades. Cool. Let's stop. We'll do a backup of it real quick here. Oh, I don't have the backup set up here. Hold on, the backup. This is kind of an interesting thing. I have a lab system and I have a production system, and I can go back and forth between any one of them. There we go. The backup's attached to this one here. Yeah, this is an interesting thing about it is you can actually have this one-to-many relationship between each of them, but it works so well. Like, it's just smooth to be able to go through all these systems and move around like this. Does it have automated an API? You can. It doesn't just have that. You can even integrate Terraform if you want. I don't do this, so don't ask me to do a video on it because I just don't use Terraform. But there's some explainers in their forums if you Google that talk about using Terraform with it. So yes, it's API driven. So there's APIs that you can use to create, move, and manipulate the VMs, and you can get fancy with things like Terraform. There's a few posts on it. Their forums are great, by the way. I go here, visit, and answer questions. So definitely check out their forums. Let's see. Okay, they have some articles on it too. So not just forums. Here's some of the articles on how to set it up. So Terraform's pretty neat way to do that if you're into doing that. Do you have any VM naming? Do you start using star constellation names, etc.? It's much dumber than that. How about where's it at here? So if we look at the hosts themselves, we have one called Ryzen 1. Ryzen 2, and Ryzen Labert. Labert is the name of our lab server. They're not very clever named. Then the VMs, I mean, we have Gray Log, which, you got to have a log. Bitwarden has a lock icon. Invoice Ninja has a $sign. I got a kangaroo on my jump box because, it's a jump box. So as I said, much simpler. Let's see. Just shipped SG 2100 from Netgate to out to a customer's Minnesota. Installed Tailscale package. Hey, it works great with that. I do recommend that. Oh, I got more notices. Let me mute all those. There we go. All right. Speaking of Netbox, had another homeland friend recommend Netbox for me recently. Netbox is pretty cool. I don't use it right now, but it's been something like I've been on my to-do list to get set up. I just never got around to it yet. Oh yeah, I mean emojis. If you're not using emojis in your VM names, I mean, come on. Zabbix has some eyeballs, and Wiki has got the little books on it. I mean, that's my UniFi controller. Which, by the way, my UniFi controller, here was me logging into it to look at something, but for the most part, it doesn't do much. It just kind of chills out, not doing much at all. Because, yeah, it doesn't take even running all the sites we run on here. I mean, there's a pretty steady amount of network connectivity. There's a lot of little packets coming back and forth, but that's about it. Yeah, it's kind of neat. You can put images of your server racks and everything else in there. It's kind of neat, and there's a lot of plugin the plugin support for XCP and G. So as you build your VMs, you can have Netbox controlling the inventory, all of it. So I don't think you can do. I've never tried doing emojis in DNS. My assumption is you can't, but I don't know. And if you try, what will break? I don't know. Pool of Zen is what I call the resource pool as well. So if you look at the pools, it's Ryzen Labert pool and pool of Zen. Zen is this is a production one. Oh, let's see. What else were we going to talk about? What is the UniFi controller running on? I think you're referring to the distro. Looks like it's a Ubuntu server. I forgot which one. It runs on Debian. It runs on Ubuntu. I built it on Ubuntu for reasons. I don't remember what those reasons were. But it's Ubuntu server. It works. Ain't broke, don't fix it. Like there's reasons to dislike the snap controversy around Ubuntu, but I'm not running into that. So it's one of those just worked. I wonder if NetData could be installed on XCP-ng host. Well, yes, but one issue with that is I do have NetData on the host, but the problem is it's not the newest version. And that's because of the way they do the updates. They're behind. So because the updates are behind, you can have net data. It's actually a feature that they've got built in. It just is always going to be a little bit behind. That's all. It's not going to be the latest version. Now, I think you probably could install the latest version. It would probably work fine. I haven't tested that in a while, but you're in luck. I think I can test that today. Maybe it's something I'll play with. Can you run XOA and HA mode behind HA proxy for high availability failover and seamless upgrades? Sure. I imagine you could. I don't see. I don't know. I've never tried. I don't have a reason to. You can stop Zen Orchestra, and it doesn't stop anything but the backups that it's doing. Generally, what I do is when I'm moving around Zen Orchestra, where does it live right now? Lab. There we go. Where does this one? Where's the disk of this one? This one's on local storage. We can migrate the disk. So let's migrate the disk to a shared storage. Wait, make sure I'm moving the right one. Yeah, XO Community Lab. So we'll do it live. We're going to live migrate the storage over here to a shared environment. So while that's moving, let me close all these crazy tabs I have open, so I'll get lost. And let's answer someone else's question here while I'm waiting for that to move. So we have our little AMO 60 here, and we're going to SSH into it, and we're going to kick off net data. Let's see if net data works on this. All right, just trying to figure out what's the fastest way to share my screen. How long is this task? This task has got 3 minutes. Can we get net data loaded in 3 minutes on another system? Let's find out. Which network component failed the most in large setups? Hard drives, always hard drives. any large setup, hard drives and power supplies. That's what fails. And people misconfiguring things. The failures that are from misconfigurations are definitely going to be the most common of them all. All right. So we stop, present, share screen, window, share. All right. Make that a little bit bigger. Find the net data script, install net data. They have like a kickoff script. We're just going to run the kickoff script. Where is that script at? Oh, it wants me to add it as a node. I don't want to add a node. I just want the install script. There it is. I think this will work. Let's just paste it in and find out. Doing it live. Oh. Okay, so I guess it didn't want to work on here. Failed. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't. I mean, I'm sure I could troubleshoot and figure this out. Attempting static build. Not there. Kickstart didn't work. Cannot communicate to appear. No common encryption algorithms. So hold on. Do I have network access? Yeah. So I have like general network access. Strange. Oh well. I can install theirs. It's just not going to be the same. It's going to be older. So that works. Actually, so if that works, hold on. What if we kick it off again? Will it fix it? Yes. Failed. Okay. I tried. All right, let's go back over to the other thing I was talking about. So remove that. Stop. Share screen. Back to the question of how we handle that. So now that this is on shared storage, which is going to be lab. So currently it's on the Ryzen 2 system. When we're doing maintenance to maintain high availability of it, if you will, is I can just take this system and just migrate it back and forth. So we can just migrate from Ryzen. It's on Ryzen 2. So let's take it over to Ryzen 1, hit OK, and it's going to migrate over to the other system. See how long it takes to do so. 9, 8, 12. What was this, about 12 seconds? Okay, maybe 12 seconds. So within 12 seconds, I can migrate it over to another system. So if I'm doing maintenance on one of the servers, this is how I can maintain Zen Orchestra up and running while I maintain the servers. That's generally my solution to it. Just move it where I need it, move it off the system I'm servicing and into another. And with some of our clients, they have larger resource pools. If they got, we have clients got like 25 really high end systems in a resource pool. There's always some system I can shuffle everything to take down and maintain systems. You can even use the rolling update feature to update your hosts and tell it to migrate all the VMs, shuffle them all around. There's strategies you can set up for doing that. If you have some real high demand, like you need to keep these systems up and running, you can build out resiliency like that with the XCP-ng and Zen Orchestra. And this is fully all open source. There's no license needed to make that functionality work. Back at you from Scotland. Awesome. Well, I am going to, as much fun as all this is, I am going to wind this down because I probably have to go take my son and get him some food. And it's usually pizza time about now. It's pushing 7 p.m. here. Any last minute questions before I wind this down? I've been kind of just bouncing all over the place for the last little while. As I said in the beginning, I have all the, well, let's share my net data stuff. I do love net data. It is just, I really like the UI and everything they have on there. If the VM's in a cluster, how do you cold start a cluster? I'm going to go over here and there's a million ways to do this. You can load an XOA wherever you want. I can load it on my computer if I wanted to. Matter of fact, right now, I've got it loaded on my TrueNAS box. So I can fire it up on my TrueNAS, point it at the backup repository, and start controlling it. So it's not even, like a bare metal restart is easy. Can you run multiple instances of XO? Are there any benefits for redundancy? Just the redundancy. If you want to, you can run them. But XO, if XO stops, the VM keeps running. So for example, let's go over and open this. So this is connected. We'll go in settings, servers. So this is the server that's connected right here. So this is the mini AM060, the one I was playing with earlier today. And if I disconnect or stop this instance of Zen Orchestra, or even disconnect from here. So let's disconnect it. So now there's nothing showing here because there's nothing connected. We go back and enable it. And we go back over to the VMs. Those VMs are also running because they run on the host. So if I restart, stop, reboot my TrueNAS server and my Zen Orchestra stops where this instance of Zen Orchestra is running, it doesn't really matter. The only thing I can't do is run any of the automation tools that are in Zen Orchestra while it's restarting. How do you keep your VMs up to date versus using Portainer, Watchtower, and Docker? I don't have any production Docker stuff with the exception of Graylog, which I update manually, but Watchtower is definitely a way to do it. I just update them manually myself, but yeah, there's automation you can do for with your Docker. Portainer will do, I think the business version of Portainer will do automation for that as well. Hey, thank you very much for the donation. Now, something else I'll mention here that's worth noting. If we go here to my lab, so if I pull up an instance of my Zen Orchestra lab, so that's this one, we go to settings, servers, and we're going to connect. This is actually across the VPN, by the way. So this is located at my office. This particular instance you're looking at here, it's connected to 2 different systems. And at the same time, this instance is local and connected to the same system. So we go back over here, settings and servers. This one's connected to that same IP address. You can have multiple Zen orchestra systems connected to a single host. And it looks kind of interesting because if I were to go here and let's see let's go to the VMs. So this is our Debian 12 demo right here. It says Debian 12 demo. I'm on another instance completely. And what I'm going to do on this instance is demo YouTube. And it changes on this one. So the changes are always done to the host, but Zen Orchestra is reading from the host. So you can have more than one instance of Zen Orchestra connected to the host, but because it's real-time updating, it'll actually it'll give you those updates in real time on the other hosts that are connected to it. Question: any experience of Open vSwitch accessing multiple hosts across virtualized network? I don't use Open vSwitch, but we have in our lab, switch to our lab system. We have a bunch of lab networks set up, and it's kind of the same where I've got 101, 102, 103, 104, 105. And what all of these are the different VLANs that we have broke down. Matter of fact, let's display all of them. So we have quite a few networks in here that we can attach to. I don't really need Open vSwitch because if I want different things to communicate, like we have Lab 109 here, what I'll do is I go to any one of these VMs, and we'll go to the networking. It's in lab, but then we can attach to one of these. So I can put all of these on lab 106. So now I'm going to build something out with lab 106 and I can build that across all of them. You don't really need Open vSwitch to do any of that. That you can do natively within XCP-ng. Because if you assign all those different networks, it's how I build out all my virtual lab stuff. It's one of my to-do lists to do a video on how that works because it's really smooth. It makes my life really easy to do. Matter of fact, if I wanted to go over here and we just put this one back at lab or I'll get confused. So we'll put this one on lab. Hey, we'll do it on this system here. So if we go here to the network and I want to add a network, I don't even have to restart or anything. I can just take this network here, test the VLAN entry. So whatever the VLAN is, and that's it. Hit create network. All right, that network's created. We have this test network. Go back over to our VMs. Take this one here, network, and just hit the pull down, and I can switch it. There's my test network. There we go. We've now switched the network on this VM. That's how easy it is to create a new network, reattach it to a VM, and be done with it. So yeah, like I said, I'm not using Open vSwitch, but I don't need to use Open vSwitch either to make that work. That all is native inside of XCP-ng. And if we want to get rid of it, I got to make sure no thing's using it. So actually, which one was it on? Now I've forgotten which network it was on. That's okay. There's a way to solve that too. Because I only have so many networks. So we go on here. Pool wide E0. No, let's look at the pool again. Which one's connected? Probably that one. All right, I'll fix that later. Not a big deal. Open vSwitch or VXLAN would be used to create overlay L2 across L3 infrastructure. Yeah, you do have the ability to create VXLANs in here. Plugins, it is within here, I believe. So you set up the SDN controller, and then from there, when you build networks, you go to the pool. And then you have the ability to build a network, either GRE or VXLAN. So there is, make sure on the right tab. There we go. You have the ability to do GRE or VXLAN encrypted. So there is an option where you can build that out as a network for VXLAN. That's built into the software-defined network controller. So if you needed to build those, I'm not using them right now, but that is another option you have. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it's enough to get you interested in playing with XCP-NG. Like I said, I like it. It's a lot of fun. But I'm going to leave. I got stuff to do. And I got some pizza that I'm sure my son, he wanted some pizza, he said. So that is on my to-do list. Thank you all for joining. Loved hearing from all of you. Love chatting with everyone. It's definitely a lot of fun. Thank you for those who donated. It is greatly appreciated. It does go long way to support the channel. And I will see you next time in the forums. Ping me at forums.lawrencesystems.com. Easiest way to have a more engaging discussion about this and other topics on my channel. Thanks.